12th-ranked Florida State Seminoles try to bounce back from a 3-game losing streak. Point guard George McCloud's been in a recent slump, but he remains one of the nation's best-kept secrets. The Seminole muscle man is William Tad Hunter, who will look to drive Florida State to victory tonight. Speedy Morris and the LaSalle Explorers have already captured the Metro Atlantic regular season title. Most of the attention at LaSalle is focused on junior star Lionel Simmons, who's been successful by land and by air. The Explorers' top role player may be Craig Conlon, who'll have to do battle on the boards tonight. Our second game is in the ACC, where the NC State programs had a big shadow hanging over it. But that hasn't stopped Chris Corchiani from leading the Wolfpack to the best record in the conference. State beat Duke earlier this season as center Avi Lester turned in a powerful performance, and six-man Kelsey Ween supplied the power up the Pine. Duke's All-American forward Danny Ferry missed that first game, but Ferry's back in the lineup and staking his claim to Player of the Year honors. Senior co-captain Quinn Snyder has risen to the occasion, and high flyer Robert Brickey will lead the charge for a payback against the Wolfpack.
You are looking at the Palestra in the city of brotherly love, an historic building in Naismith's game where stars like Howard Porter as players became future NBA stars, and Jack Ramsey made a name as a coach. Tonight, some newcomers will be stars on the horizon as the first of 3 college basketball games gets underway. We are live in the Palestra at Philadelphia for LaSalle and Florida State. Hello everyone, I'm Tim Brando, welcoming you to the Palestra in Philadelphia, where we're about to see a pair of teams that are headed for March Madness. In the case of LaSalle, you're talking about a team playing for Aretha Franklin. It's respect yourself night. They would love to have a victory tonight over a nationally ranked team. And for Florida State, it's a team that's reeling from 3 consecutive losses. And Clark Kellogg, who joins me for tonight's game, those are just a couple of reasons why this game is so meaningful.
No question about it. This is the type of game at this point in the season, Tim, where both teams want to get themselves ready for tournament time, and they couldn't do it with a better matchup. Florida State trying to stop the bleeding, and LaSalle trying to gain respect.
All right, and let's get our keys to victory, beginning with Florida State. They've been in a slump, and their big star hasn't gotten it done.
He really hasn't. He needs to get back on track. We're talking about George McCloud only shooting 39% from the floor in the last 2 ball games. He's going to have to get back to shooting the ball well from the perimeter.
And for LaSalle, a club that obviously needs to get fantastic play out of their NBA big-timer to be.
No question about it. Lionel Simmons, 28 points a game, 11 boards a game. He just needs to keep on keeping on. But more importantly, Tim, Doug Overton is going to have to handle pressure from the Florida State Seminoles, full court, man-to-man pressure.
All right, we've got the plays baseline to baseline coming at you tonight. 3 games. It all begins here in Philadelphia, John Saunders.
Thanks a lot, Tim and Clark. We'll rejoin you in just a moment's time. LaSalle has won 14 of their last 16 games. They're extremely hot. Well, Florida State, on the other hand, has lost 3 consecutive games. They need a win to rebound. A reminder, as Tim told you, 3 games tonight. Our second one will be from the ACC. NC State up against Duke. NC State, the #1 team in the ACC. Then at 11:30, we'll move to the Big Sky. Boise State hosting Idaho. Now, we'll also at halftime update you on Jay Burson, the outstanding guard of Ohio State, bouncing back or trying to from problems with his back. We'll also have a feature on the Duke club. Stay with us. ESPN's NCAA basketball, Florida State versus LaSalle, is brought to you by BMW, the ultimate driving machine. To arrange a thorough test drive, simply phone your nearest BMW dealer. By United, rededicated to giving you the service you deserve. Come fly the friendly skies. And by Budweiser, Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you.
Back at the Palestra in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where the LaSalle Explorers take on the Seminoles of Florida State. Tim Brando along with Clark Kellogg, and with the starting lineups for tonight's game, here is public address announcer John McAdams.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the University of Pennsylvania Palestra, college basketball's most historic gym. This evening, Palestra basketball presents the Florida State University Seminoles and the LaSalle University Explorers. Let's meet the starting lineups. First for Florida State. At a forward position, a junior, 6 feet, 9 inches tall from Miami, Florida, number 30, Irving Thomas. The other forward is senior, 6 feet, 7 inches tall from Kinston, North Carolina, number 24, Tony Dawson. At the center spot, a senior, 6 feet, 7 inches tall from Cantonment, Florida, number 34, Tat Hunter. At the guards, a junior, 6 feet, 3 inches tall from New Haven, Connecticut, number 22, Theron Mays. And at the other guard, a senior, 6 feet, 6 inches tall from Daytona Beach, Florida, number 21, George McCloud. The head coach of the Seminoles in his third season is Pat Kennedy. And for the LaSalle University Explorers, at a forward position, a junior, 6 feet, 6 inches tall from Philadelphia, number 22, Lionel Simmons. At the other forward is senior, 6 feet, 6 inches tall from Glenside, Pennsylvania, number 42, Craig Condon. At the center spot, a freshman, 6 feet, 9 inches tall from Amsterdam, the Netherlands, number 44, Milko Lieberst. At the guards, a sophomore, 6 feet, 2 inches tall from Philadelphia, number 11, Doug Overton. At the other guard, a freshman, 6 feet, 6 inches tall from Linnitz, Pennsylvania, number 25, Jack Hurd. His third season is Bill Speedy Morris. The official.
LaSalle, just the kind of team you don't want to play in the first round of the NCAAs. Florida State wants to be in position to play the way they did in January in the first round, and that means a big win tonight. The scene in Philadelphia, the Palestra, where many an historic game has been played in the Big Five and beyond, and the standings in the Metro Conference showing Florida State a full game behind Louisville. Overall, though, 19-5. They have lost 3 games in a row, 2 on this road trip. The MAC, which is a league that, of course, once was Pat Kennedy's at Iona. Now the Gales, of course, coached by Gary Brokaw, but everyone's behind LaSalle. They are clearly the class of the MAC. Florida State in their garnet trimmed in gold, LaSalle in their home gold trimmed in blue. And the opening tap control to the Explorers, and the show will be run by Doug Overton.
Well, Tim, we can look early for Theron Mays to really get in Doug Overton's face.
And there's the inside move, a quick first step of the star, Lionel Simmons, the best player you may have never seen.
He's an awesome talent. Really likes to get going to the basket just as he did there.
Irving Thomas is pinched, and there's the steal. They'll trap out of that zone. Overton buries it. And LaSalle out to the quick start they needed, 4-0.
Well, they got the turnover. They like to play off turnovers, get out in transition. Quick start, something they wanted to do here on their home floor.
You made the point earlier, Florida State has to adjust, and that means McCloud must bury the outside jumper. They don't play against zones in the Metro Conference. And there's a foul in the backcourt committed by Theron Mays. There's Pat Kennedy in his third year. What a job he's done at FSU, a terminal football school turned hoop crazy.
He's really got them going. They've hit a dry spell, kind of hit an air pocket here lately.
Now remember, they have had a chemistry problem with this team because of the adjustment to the loss of McCloud being injured, Mays being out of the lineup. Now they're suddenly back to the original starting five that went 14-1 at the outset of the year, and they hope to find some chemistry tonight.
You'll see straight man-to-man from Florida State. The Explorers, on the other hand, will be patient offensively, run their cuts and weak side action away from the ball.
Inside, Conlon in the paint. Craig Conlon, the only senior on this LaSalle team, makes it 6-0 Explorers.
Conlon doesn't shoot from the perimeter much. He's a 58% career field goal shooter. Why? Because he takes shots only that he can make in the paint.
Tad Hunter's shot won't fall, and it's cleared by Conlon. And quickly up court to Big Lionel, and he's fouled by Irving Thomas. Take a look at Conlon inside and the patience. They used 18 seconds on this sequence.
Well, Tony Dawson makes the gamble, tries to go for the steal, comes up empty, and that allows Conlon to catch the ball 4 feet from the hole, and he's a 58% shooter, and he buried that one.
Simmons, you see all of those numbers. We could go on and on about him, obviously. He's also been the MAC Player of the Week a record 6 times.
He's an outstanding talent. Likes to do most of his damage inside, Tim, but I think at the next level, although he could be a 3-man, I think his future probably lies at the 2-guard position in the NBA.
Well, the Seminoles have been off to slow starts on this road trip. Tonight, no different. After 2 minutes, they failed to stretch.
1-3-1 zone defense by the Explorers.
And it's rejected by Simmons, and there's Overton. Back to Simmons. Pat Kennedy needs composure, and that means a timeout. The Explorers are for real, and here's an example of Simmons' NBA ability. We have him shaded here, Clark.
No question about it. We're going to look at Lionel Simmons doing it defensively with the block shot. That initiates the fast break, and Doug Overton with a nice play sees Simmons coming and rewards the big guy who started that fast break opportunity. Great play that time by Simmons and Overton.
As advertised at the top of the show, Lionel, an outstanding player, and LaSalle pitching a perfect shutout. They have failed to miss from the floor, a perfect 4 for 4.
Well, you look at their shots, Tim, and they've only had one perimeter shot, everything else in the paint.
Mays, and Simmons clears it. Overton's got a 2-on-2, and he'll pull up. Inside, outside, all around the town in Philadelphia, the Explorers have a dozen.
Well, right now, Florida State needs to try to get something inside.
And the charge, or I should say the block, logged by Craig Conlon, his first foul. Florida State will trigger it in. There's Speedy Morris. What a story he is in his third year as the men's coach here. We'll develop that story a little later for you. And of course, a longtime high school coach here at Roman Catholic in Philadelphia. Tad Hunter inside, too strong, cleared by Conlon, and a foul over the back. A push by Conlon, and that'll get Speedy up and going on the sideline. During this slump for Florida State, remember they're coming off a loss as you look at Speedy. Hey, you're up 12, coach, hang in there. During this slump, their shooting percentages have really fallen off. Inside, Dawson, and Florida State gets its first hoop with 3:15 gone. Here's an example of what we're talking about during this slump. From the floor, during the 0 for 3 slump, the rebounds are down, everything's down, but more specifically the shooting percentage. Point output as well.
Shooting percentage always a function of shot selection.
Nice move down on the blocks by Jack Hurd.
And right now, the Seminoles have to concentrate on trying to get the ball inside. The zone is designed to allow them to shoot the ball from the perimeter. The Seminoles must be patient, look to exploit the inside alleys and try to get it inside.
Nice steal by Milko Levers. The center cut through there, gave some help, and forced the turnover. Simmons works over Thomas. Knocked away by Hunter, and a travel. Matt Kennedy got the defensive help he wanted that time, forcing the first turnover by the Explorers.
Boy, Lionel Simmons has that explosive long step to the basket, which allows him to get there very quickly. That time, Hunter able to come over and help with the block.
LaSalle lost by 2 against Notre Dame. McCloud drills a tray. 14-5, a 9-point lead now for LaSalle. The Explorers played Syracuse early in the preseason NIT, a game you saw here on ESPN. And of course, since then, losing in a game they really controlled most of the way at Notre Dame. This is their opportunity to beat a nationally ranked team. They've had some chances. And again, Conlon gets caught away from the ball with a personal. That's his second.
South Alabama number 22, Craig Conlon.
Bobby Johnson now coming into the game.
Bob Johnson, number 20.
Number 20 in goal for LaSalle.
Craig Conlon.
Patience going to be the key for Florida State. They haven't played against a lot of zone defenses.
Thomas with a skip pass over to Hunter. Nice pass to Dawson. They forced the foul inside. Great look by Dawson.
Well, it's going to have to happen in the paint for the Seminoles. I firmly believe that. Then you start knocking down the perimeter shots. But first and foremost, you have to look inside, try to get it in the paint. Good interior passing that time, and they draw a foul.
Milko Weavers picked it up. Dawson at the line. Matt Kennedy, assisted by Rich Petriccioni, Tom Carlson, and Dave Zimroth. Got into the NCAAs a year ago out of the Metro Conference, one of 3 teams to get in. That league is loaded with 3 teams that could perhaps make it to the Final 16, particularly the way the Memphis State Tigers have been playing lately. There's a steal. Mays on the other end loses it, and it goes back to LaSalle.
Well, that time the Seminoles in a 1-3-1 three-quarters court trap, came up with the steal, but then turned it right back over. They're going to go right back to it. It worked that time, so they're going to come right back to the 1-3-1.
Johnson looking inside. And he's open for three. That's his spot. Too strong. Cleared by Irving Thomas. Well, Florida State down by a dozen early. Clawed to within 7. McCloud loose on the floor again. Thomas scrums it out to Mays.
Did a nice job to go down on the floor. The big guy at 6'9 plus. Nice look.
McCloud to Dawson getting the foul again. Well, you'd never know without seeing McCloud in person just what a great passer he is. He's got such great billing as an outside shooter.
Here we get a look at George McCloud. He's about 6'6", a legitimate 6'6". Now the little jump pass right into Tony Dawson underneath. That's great vision. And being 6'6" out on that point against the zone allows him to see over people's hands and find those open alleys inside.
Dawson rather surprised to get it initially, and of course that's an adjustment all of the players down on the post have to make, because McCloud goes up at 6'6". It appears to be a shot, and many times it's not.
That's right. You have to be alert if you're a Seminole when McCloud has the ball, because he'll get it to you if you get open.
14-8. 6 minutes gone from the Palestra in Philadelphia. Tim Brando along with Clark Kellogg. We're happy you're with us. The first of 3 tonight on ESPN. Johnson commits the foul out of frustration, going over the back of Derek Mitchell, who clocked into the game a few moments ago, a senior from Jacksonville. Mitchell had been starting for Pat Kennedy while Theron Mays was on the shelf.
This is a deep team. The Seminoles play about 7 or 8 guys. And they're all pretty good players.
McCloud wide open for 3.
That's a 3-point basket by Florida State.
In that zone, you better recover with McCloud out there.
Anytime you can get the penetration that puts pressure on the defense, inside penetration, that's going to open up the perimeter shot. The Seminoles now on a half-court trap, 1-3-1.
And they're on an 11-2 run since trailing 12-0, 3 minutes deep. And the foul against Tad Hunter. Florida State converging on Lionel Simmons on the defensive end.
Here he is, 3 Seminoles, well, 2 Seminoles double team him right there. He gives it up. Now he makes a nice flash into the paint area. Looks like he may have took a little bunny rabbit hop in the lane, no call, and he picks up the foul call.
That is Easter around the corner, a little bunny rabbit hop. I like that.
Well, Coach Pat Kennedy didn't like it. He didn't like the fact that it wasn't called.
Oh, when you have an NBA future, sometimes you get away with it. You know all about that, right?
A little bit, Brando. Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
16-11. LaSalle by 5.
Here's some full court pressure. 3/4 court pressure by the Explorers. Coach Kennedy, he wanted his guys to attack it for score.
Mitchell. Aubrey Boyd is in the game along with Derek Mitchell. Florida State going to its pine in the backcourt. Simmons! Did he find a seam or what?
Well, that's what Pat Kennedy didn't want to happen. Allow him to put the ball on the floor. That time he goes coast to coast. Nobody steps in front, and he finished it off emphatically.
Dawson with a charge.
Here we look at Lionel Simmons coming right at you, right down the middle to the cup, and wham, for the one-handed jam.
They say he has a great first step, the NBA scouts, but boy, he had 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 steps there.
Well, nobody stopped his penetration. You must stop the basketball, but Lionel Simmons, he's much more fluid than he first appears when you're watching the initial time.
Bobby Johnson just off the mark. Once he gets cranked up, he'll give LaSalle a lot more scoring punch outside. Irving Thomas and Aubrey Boyd got tangled up in the corner for FSU. You look at McCloud with that height and you think, boy, he can look over that zone so well. Thomas forces one in.
Well, they really had some success, Tim, in getting the ball in the paint area I really think that's where they're going to have to try to exploit the zone defense of the Explorers, put it inside to Thomas and Dawson, and then make it an inside-out game. Throw it inside if you don't have it, then kick it back out for the McCloud three-pointer.
Thomas with his first hoop, and Overton pierces through. Jack Hurd keeps it alive to Levers. 20-13. And a foul against Johnson. Well, Bobby Johnson's come in and picked up a couple of cheapies since coming into the game. Our officials tonight, a split crew: Frank Scagliato, Bob Donato, a name that I'm sure all of you remember from the Big East, and John Kelly, as Speedy Morris looks on. We're in the bonus now. Florida State will go to the line with 11:45 to play. The pressure for LaSalle has brought forth a number of fouls against both teams.
Really has. That could allow Florida State to crawl back into it. They've done a nice job of maintaining their poise. The Explorers come out on fire, a lot of emotion, get to the early lead, a double-digit lead right away. And right now it's a fairly tight ball game.
McCloud brings the Seminoles to within 5. A little sunshine here in Philadelphia. (20-15) our score. LaSalle with a lead, 11:45 to play in the first half. Lionel Simmons so far with a fine game. He's the youngest of 3, and in South Philly you mature in a hurry. And of course, he's following in the footsteps of Harry Machine Gun Kelly, who at Texas Southern was the only NCAA Division I player with 3,000 points and 1,000 rebounds. He averaged somewhere between 7 and 11 rebounds per game during that 4-year period, and somewhere between 29 and 23 points during those 4 years. As for Simmons, 2,232. He already has the rebounds necessary. If he stays in school, he has an opportunity to join Machine Gun.
All indications are that he will remain for his senior season, and that nice honor is certainly within reach for Lionel Simmons.
Johnson baseline. His first hoop, and it's 22-15 LaSalle.
Boy, Tim, we talked about it earlier during this game that Florida State was going to try to pressure man-to-man, but so far the Explorers have really been able to get the kind of shots they want offensively.
And on the other end, Aubrey Boyd with the foul going over the back. Sophomore out of Macon, Georgia. 22-15.
Here we get a look at a 1-3-1 trap by the Seminoles.
And there's Jack Hurd. A line drive arc. Simmons follows. Jack Hurd can also warm it up from outside. Not a bad shot for him.
Well, those are the kind of shots they want him to take, those open perimeter jumpers.
Dawson uses the window pane. 24-17. This game really hasn't established a rhythm yet, has it, Clark?
Really hasn't. Those teams, well, certainly the Explorers have pretty much been able to do what they want offensively.
McCloud picks up the foul outside against Overton. Offensive board work so important in this game for LaSalle.
Here's a jump shot by Hurd. Watch Simmons work free inside to get to the offensive glass. That's why he might be able to play the 3 spot in the NBA as well, because he's strong enough and quick enough to get going and get his game off inside, and he's worked extremely hard on his perimeter shot to make himself a better perimeter shooter.
3 spot meaning the small forward spot, obviously. 24-17 LaSalle up by 7. Just over 10 minutes to play in the opening half. Overton great with the ball to Milko Levers. And again a tie ball. The arrow will go to Florida State.
Boy, Bob Johnson, as thin as he is, able to get inside and bang with the big fella. Here's Levers going inside, no good. And look at Johnson inside. He's got to give up about 40, 45 pounds to Irv Thomas.
They love to see him put some added weight on. He didn't have to have a lot of weight because he played at the South Philly High School with Simmons. He could play the perimeter as Aubrey Boyd nails a 3 from the perimeter for Florida State. 24-20 now. This is as close as the Seminoles have been. Johnson, and it's pulled down by Boyd.
A little quick with that shot, Johnson was that time.
Tad Hunter down on the blocks. They've got an advantage inside with Thomas and Hunter and Dawson when he's in the game against that slower front line for LaSalle. Nice move. They're on Mays, but it won't go. Hurd gets it to Overton.
Well, I tell you what, he's really been excellent in transition, pulling up for that 15 to 17-foot jump shot. He's not forced the issue at all trying to get to the basket, just calmly pulled up for the jump shot on 3 occasions and buried them all.
He has 6 points. And there's Mays. 3 driving the baseline. They're on Mays. Junior from New Haven, Connecticut. So he's a little closer to home than usual. Simmons. Well, he got his pocket picked by McCloud. And there's Overton loose. Good touch pass to Johnson. Rebounded by Thomas. McCloud skips it over to Boyd. Well, they're using that skip pass, aren't they?
Well, it's very effective against the zone. You want to make that zone defense shift, and one of the best ways to do that is to make the skip pass.
With that height, you know they can find their guy.
Exactly, they can see each other across the court. Great look by McCloud.
To Hunter. 26-24, LaSalle's lead has dwindled to 2.
Boy, in hostile territory, you have to be impressed with the way the Seminoles have just kind of plugged away at the lead.
They were down 12-0, 3 minutes deep, and Simmons is there to answer.
You've also got to be impressed with this guy's overall ability. He shows you he can get to the basket. He shows you he can play defense with the block shot. Now he shows you his outside jump shot.
15 points for Lionel. Mays.
That's a 3-point basket.
What touch.
They say he's not having any pain in that broken hand, or that hand that he broke earlier this season. Seems to be back at full strength. And by the way that jump shot fell, I think he is.
5.5 weeks ago he broke that hand, and finally back in that lineup. And Overton shot too strong, his first miss of the game. Florida State can tie or take the lead with a 3-pointer on this possession. And they've been so inclined to do either last few times down the floor. The alley-oop to Hunter, too strong. Nice idea, they didn't convert. And Thomas, Irving Thomas, the junior from Miami, picks up his second foul. 7:04 remaining at the Palestra. 29-27 our score. The Explorers have the lead. And they will go to the line. Milko Levers will go there as you look at Pat Kennedy. And the replay is Tim Brando and Clark Kellogg back with you. While we were away, we inadvertently had some advertising time running on our air while we were at the free throw line with Milko Lieberst. He connected on the 2 free throws to make it 31-27. Now we're going to take a look at Florida State passing over that zone, and it's easily done with a 6'7" point guard.
Well, they converted on the prior possession of this play. There you see McCloud in the Hunter. As a matter of fact, this is the play that they converted on. There was another play following this one where they didn't convert.
And now it's a 4-point LaSalle lead, 31-27. I'm impressed with the way Florida State has been able to come back, and we really haven't established a rhythm to this game.
We really haven't. Florida State got off to the slow start while the Explorers were red hot, jumped to a 12-point lead. Florida State has kind of plugged and picked their way back into it, and they've done it basically, Tim, by being able to get inside against the zone defense. The pressure of Florida State really has not come into play. The Explorers have been able to do pretty much what they've wanted to do offensively.
I think if there was a question about Overton, whether he could handle pressure, because in the MAC there are so many zones, and it really is a half-court game, he has answered that severe question early on.
We really haven't been able to see them get the pressure established that they wanted to, Florida State, because they got off to such a slow start shooting the basketball. They weren't able to get back defensively and start that full-court man-to-man pressure.
They really got back into the game with good passing out of their half-court game, and here's another turnover. Florida State had a number of early turnovers. Theron Mays turning that one over, and that's the 5th of the game committed by the Seminoles.
Well, LaSalle does an excellent job of handling the ball themselves and making the opposition turn it over.
They were down 12-0 after the first 2:34, and they've been warming it up ever since. Tad Hunter picking up the foul. His given name, William, but just called him Tad, out of Cantonment, Florida, and Gonzales State High School. That's just outside the Pensacola area on the peninsula, the northwest Gulf tip of the state of Florida.
Well, I bumped into quite a few NBA scouts that are here, no doubt, to take a look at this young man, as well as George McCloud, George Irvin of the Indiana Pacers here, Billy Cunningham of the Miami Heat here, Dick Perkle-Daney from the Phoenix Suns is also here, as is John Nash from the 76ers. So a lot of pro folks in the stands tonight.
A lot of popular eyes. That's 8 right there, I counted. McCloud down on the blocks, posting up, and then Johnson stuffed him. Bob Johnson steals it. And now Simmons in the open court right where he wants to be. Boy, and he threw up a brick. And Mays on the other end puts it in. Boy, Lionel with a rare miss in the open court, and I'm sure you'll hear about that from some of his friends.
Oh, from some of his fellas, he'll certainly hear about that one. All glad.
Jack Hurd with the three-pointer. Freshman out of Warwick High School in Lititz, Pennsylvania. And McCloud, there's a foul. Running through the screener that time, Brad Johnson of Florida State, and that'll be a turnover, and LaSalle will get it back as Aubrey Boyd looks to come into the game. Johnson will sit back down. There's Johnson. He's got a great future in front of him. A redshirt quarterback with Bobby Bowden could very possibly be the starting quarterback next year for Florida State football. There's Speedy. 3rd year with a 66-28 mark. Rebound cleared to Tad Hunter. LaSalle back out to a 7-point lead. And McCloud can't find it, and Hurd clears it for LaSalle. Bob Johnson. Simmons follows. Too strong again. Boyd feeds Mays. Kept alive. Boy, Mays ping-ponging it there, and he's finally fouled. Crowd wanted to travel that time down low, but it appeared that he had no control of the ball, Clark.
Here we're going to look at it. Theron Mays inside. Almost catches his own shot. Probably should have been a walk right there. But maybe the officials blocked out, and he stays with it. Stays right with the basketball and is able to end up drawing the foul. But looks like he caught his own miss as he had the backboard block his initial thrust. But no call, and he's at the line.
Overton picked up the foul, his first. Former Connecticut Player of the Year at Hill House High School in New Haven. Pat Kennedy, because of his Eastern background, will be able to recruit the East Coast area. And of course, when you put that together with the outstanding array of talent in the state of Florida, the future is bright in Tallahassee. Johnson drives, and it's a walk.
Johnson that time a little out of control, undecided as to what he really wanted to do upon penetration, kind of made up his mind at the last minute to try to dump it off and subsequently walk with the basketball.
Milko Lever's coming back into the game, and Don Shelton will sit down. They'll utilize 3 players at the center spot. That really has been the Achilles heel of this LaSalle team. They use all 3 of their centers, although Levers will get the start. They have not gotten a great deal of offense at that spot. Boyd off the pass from McCloud. Well, that has to be frustrating for George. 3 lobs, and they fail to convert. And a turnover against Levers in the backcourt, and Speedy is disrobing.
He's out of his time. You hate to see your big guy in that kind of position, undecided as to what to do with the basketball. Nobody was really in the backcourt to help him, so it's not all his fault. He tried to do something he's not comfortable doing and walked. Unfortunately, he did it right in front of Speedy, and Speedy is really upset about it.
At least we know he doesn't have one of those fake ties that you just snap on, right?
It's a legit tie-on tie.
Right. We have a turnover, and we'll go back to LaSalle. And Pat Kennedy can't believe how many times he's seen the ball go the other way without launching a shot. You see the time remaining, 4:15 and counting from the Palestra.
Good balance here by the Explorers. They do a good job of keeping the floor spread. Man-to-man defense by Florida State. Anytime Simmons puts it on the floor, they're supposed to double team.
Well, the iron unkind again. Levers counted in the foul. Oh, homogenized Milko.
Here we look at him pound the offensive glass. Gets tapped around inside. He's right there at the right spot at the right time. What a way to make up for that walk just a moment ago.
Oh, that was pure. And you see his numbers. They don't expect a great deal of offense out of this youngster. He was a red shirt last year, a medical red shirt. He had stress fractures, could not practice with the team, and for that reason, a major question mark. Speedy has him kicked in on all cylinders, up by 9. LaSalle again leading by 9, and Milko Lieberst with some unexpected offense, Clark.
Well, this has been the difference in the half. The Explorers able to pound the offensive glass. McCloud can't control it. Boyd can't control it, and there's Lieberst inside for the putback, and he went on to complete the three-point opportunity.
And there's a critical stat. LaSalle leading on the offensive glass, and they're a smaller team without a great front line, and that's a big, big item.
But when I tell you what they're doing, they're out-quicking Florida State to the ball, believe it or not.
Ball is loose to Aubrey Boyd, and it's loose now to Doug Overton. Nice move in the open court. Launched it perhaps a bit too quickly, though.
Really a tough shot that time in transition.
3-on-1. McCloud kicks it back out to Mays. How many assists could he have had in the first half?
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Bob Johnson for 3. 2 3-pointers for Johnson, and LaSalle leads by a dozen again, equaling their largest margin. A steal by Johnson. Simmons keeping it alive along with Overton. Back to Lionel. They're on their feet at the Palestra.
Right now, Tim, they're just out-quicking, out-hustling the Florida State Ball Club. There's another turnover.
By Tony Dawson. Bob Johnson with some fine pressure. The arm extension, the key here, picking the pocket of McCloud.
Clean steal that time. McCloud tried to shake and bake a little bit, the missed shot. But here again, offensive rebounding work by the Explorers. Overton always seems to find Lionel Simmons for easy hoops. Did it again right there on the second chance.
This is a team with a great outside-inside combination. When you take into consideration the talent as you look at the turnovers, and Florida State's doubled the output of LaSalle in that category. But Overton really finds the spot. Thank you. Right on cue, he spotted up for the deuce. 46-30 LaSalle.
The reason he got that jump shot, Lionel Simmons attracts much attention from the opposition. That time they doubled him. He smartly moved the ball to the open man.
And a turnover again against the Seminoles.
Well, we thought the Seminoles would be the ones pressuring the Explorers, forcing the turnovers. But that's not been the case. The Explorers have come out with great pressure and forced a lot of turnovers, and also have pounded them on the offensive glass.
10-0 run in 2 minutes plus now for LaSalle. Boyd got a hand on that one to help force the turnover. Pat Kennedy now struggling to get his team its confidence back. Remember, they had to be shaken coming off that loss against the Privateers of New Orleans earlier in the week. McCloud down low against Johnson. Hunter keeps it alive. McCloud again on top of it. And it's a tie ball with the arrow this time pointing towards LaSalle. Getting physical down there.
We're looking at it inside. A little rugby action in here. The ball's being scrambled for, and there's McCloud, and it looks like Lieberst on the floor finally tied up, and the possession goes to the Explorers. They're really just out hustling Florida State right now. The Seminoles have lost their composure, and the Explorers have been able to capitalize on numerous turnovers and also have done a great job on the offensive board.
1:28 to play in the half. Simmons and Johnson follows. McCloud, nice pass again to the outside man, and they're just not falling for the guards, Derek Mitchell and company. White feeds McCloud for 3. He may have to do it himself tonight.
Well, I really don't think it's going to happen if they have to do it on the perimeter, Tim. You notice everything the Explorers are getting offensively is pretty much in the paint area with the spot-up occasional jump shot, whereas Florida State primarily has been shooting the ball from the perimeter.
They are quick with the trigger outside, aren't they?
No question about it. When a team gets on a run, that's exactly what they want you to do. Pull up for the quick chase. If you're not shooting it well, they're on the way to the other end.
You see the time remaining, 8-second differential from the shot clock. So Florida State should have another opportunity. 10 seconds on the shot clock, and they run away Simmons for the alley-oop, knocked away by David White.
We're going to see it. We're going to see it right here. The miss by Lionel Simmons. Here comes Bob Johnson right there for the flush on the offensive rebound.
6 seconds now on the shot clock as we come back to live action. Overton negotiates. Levers. Milko, where have you been? McCloud at the buzzer off the front rim, and we're at halftime. 50-33, and listen to this crowd.
The Florida State University Seminoles, 33.
Here it is. This epitomizes the first half right here, folks. Levers on the offensive glass for the putback.
We'll be by with more at halftime in a few moments from Philadelphia. Now let's get back to our studios and our own John Saunders. John, a surprise thus far.
The 17-point lead certainly is a surprise, especially the team that's down, ranked number 12 in the nation, and they could be about to lose for the 4th consecutive time. We'll have more on that in just a moment. Now, most of you know that Ohio State point guard Jay Burson is lost to the Buckeyes for the rest of the season. What you might not know is just how serious his injury is. He has a broken vertebrae in his neck. 10 days ago, you see Ed Horton clips him on the top of the head. The basketball career could be over. He has to wear a traction brace for 12 weeks.
Well, it's all been tough. Shoot, I've played basketball ever since I can remember. And all of a sudden, I got to give it up. What my future is, I guess no one really knows. And it's a guessing game, so that's tough. But then yet again, you go out there and watch your guys playing. And you just, that's all I want to do is be out there playing. But yeah, alone, I guess I'm lucky that I'm still able to walk and talk and able to go ahead and get my education and try and further myself that way. So I just got to keep telling myself that that I'm going to be all right.
And we certainly hope that Jay Burson is going to be all right. That brace you saw just a moment ago is actually implanted into his skull. He says it's like being poked in the head 24 hours a day from 4 points in your head. Jay Burson will be at the Buckeyes game as they host Michigan tonight, and we wish him the best. Stay with us. More to come in a moment.
ESPN's NCAA basketball, Florida State versus LaSalle, is brought to you by Nike, who reminds you to just do it. By United Van Lines, where the quality shows in every move we make. And by 7-Up, the choice for refreshment. Cool me down, 7-Up.
LaSalle leads Florida State 50-33. We're at halftime back there in just a moment. We have 3 games tonight. Our second game will be NC State against Duke. The Blue Devils have won 6 games in a row, and they're ranked 9th in the nation. Now, you'd expect that from a team that's this talented. What you might forget is that they were once ranked number 1 in the nation and have spent the last month battling back from a mid-season collapse. In the early going, the Duke Blue Devils were in 7th heaven. They were the consensus number 1 pick in preseason publications while being highlighted on the number 1 TV show by the nation's number 1 dad. They streaked to a 13-0 start, but 13 proved unlucky and the bottom dropped out quicker than a poor student at Duke. Team leader Danny Ferry developed back problems, and then neighbor North Carolina came to town.
Ahead of the pack. Man, good night. And then he waves at him. He says, good night. Celebrate in Chapel Hill.
The Tar Heels rolled and the Blue Devils were blue in the face, and it got worse. A quick trip to Wake Forest resulted in another loss. Ferry's back held him out of the NC State game, Duke's 3rd consecutive defeat. Ferry returned versus Clemson, but Duke didn't need him as the Tigers were minus 7 players due to academic suspensions. But next time out, Georgia Tech made it 4 losses in 5 games.
We did not have very good chemistry on the court. I think we didn't do things as a team. We had individual tendencies, which really hurt us.
Changes were made in the front court. Ala Abdul-Nabi and John Smith moved into the starting lineup, while Bricky and freshman Christian Leitner deepened the bench. Those moves and Ferry's improved back have Duke playing like a team once again.
I think the big difference for us now is we're just playing with a lot of emotion, and we're really sticking together real well out on the court. I mean, we're just meshing real well. And I think that's mainly done by our defense.
Now our team is really coming together. We're playing much better as a unit, and we're doing things in a team-oriented and team sense of frame of mind.
Duke seems to be climbing out of the valley of doom while heading up the polls. There's still confidence and optimism in Durham.
Our goals are still there, and right now we're in the process of reaching those, but we're doing it in a much better fashion than we did earlier.
I'm expecting the best. I think we can, get to wherever that is, Final Four, and I think we can be very good.
Duke still has a shot to win it all in the ACC. They're 7-4 right now, a game and a half back of NC State, 1 full game back of North Carolina. They have 3 games left, but tonight's game against NC State is their last at home. The other 2 will be on the road. They host NC State, number 9 against number 17 at 9 Eastern time. We follow that up as we step aside for SportsCenter. Come back at 11:30 Eastern. Idaho against Boise State, that in the Big Sky. So stay with us. There's plenty more basketball coming your way here tonight on ESPN. We're at halftime of a non-conference game. LaSalle with a 17-point lead over Florida State. LaSalle has a 17-point lead over Florida State at halftime. We'll get back to the Palestra in just a moment. Kentucky basketball coach Eddie Sutton says reports today in a Columbus newspaper that he will resign are absolutely false. Sutton says he is a fighter. Now, the Columbus Dispatch reported it had learned Sutton, under fire for alleged recruiting violations, would be told to leave and replaced by Lee Rose. Sutton says not true.
I've already said I don't know who's behind it. I wish I did, and I'd like to know what their motive is. It certainly disappoints me that, see, if they want to get rid of me, that's fine. But let's wait till the season's over. But let's don't take it out on our players. And that's what, every time one of these leaks come out, it's so disruptive and discouraging to our basketball players. And that's not fair to them. If you have any feeling and sensitivity for the young men that represent the University of Kentucky, then it's wrong.
Interim athletic director Joe Birch says Sutton will remain with the school at least until the end of the season. C.M. Newton, the coach of Vanderbilt, who takes over on April the 1st as the athletic director at the University of Kentucky, calls this shoddy journalism. He says Sutton has not been fired and Lee Rose has not been told that he will get the job. Right now, let's go back to Palestra. Tim Brando and Clark Kellogg standing by as the LaSalle Explorers have a big lead over the Florida State Seminoles. Gentlemen.
All right, John Saunders, thank you very much. It's 50-33. LaSalle with the lead over the Seminoles of Florida State. With Clark Kellogg, I am Tim Brando. And Clark, this ball game really has been the tale of turnovers and the inability to handle boards by the team that's much larger, Florida State.
No question about it. Offensive rebounds by the Explorers and also the ability to force turnovers for easy basket opportunities. There you see 10 offensive rebounds for LaSalle versus 5 for Florida State. And here we get a look at one of them. Lionel Simmons showing you his versatility as he gets inside and comes up with the offensive rebound for the 2-point putback.
Now McCloud has made a number of great passes to set up his offense, and yet they've turned the ball over. Now here's a simple case of too much defense from Simmons, but they had that and a lot more during the first half. This really personifies Florida State's play in the first 20 minutes.
No question about it. Here we look at the turnovers. 11 for Florida State. I don't know how many points they scored off those turnovers, the Explorers, but they've gotten a bunch.
All right, and of course an All-American night for the All-American. Lionel Simmons with 18 points, 7 rebounds, 2 blocks. You just saw one of them. And Milko Levers. I mean, where has he come from? I'm told from a number of people, including Ed Stefanski, who does a number of games for us and, of course, knows the Big Five well as a past Penn player. This guy's unconscious tonight, Milko Levers.
He's having a career night tonight, but Lionel Simmons, a true All-American, and he's showing you why right here tonight.
All right, the marquee names and then some you're getting from the Explorers. LaSalle leading by 17 at halftime.
ESPN's NCAA basketball, Florida State versus LaSalle, is brought to you by Nike, who reminds you to just do it. And by Jeep, there's a feeling you can get only in a Jeep.
It's not a surprise that LaSalle has the lead against 12th-ranked Florida State. They've been reeling, 3 straight losses. But it is a surprise that they lead by this score. 50-33, LaSalle leading Florida State, and Milko Levers with a record performance, a career-high 9 points. His season average 1.8 points per game. He's out of Holland and Amsterdam, redshirted a year ago. He didn't even have an opportunity to practice with the team because of stress fractures to both feet. And an interesting story, Clark, he was discovered by a local sportscaster that was a neighbor of his first cousin. When he found out he wanted to come to America, he gave Speedy's number to Milko. Milko gave him a call. He said, "How tall are you?" He said, "I go about 6'9". He said, "We'll take you."
Well, they're glad they took him tonight. Career high, 9 points in the first half. He's been outstanding, especially on the offensive glass.
They took him sight unseen, and he has been out of sight tonight. 50-33 our score as we start the second half. Florida State with too many turnovers. They need more opportunities underneath. And there's Theron Mays out the hoop, and he's fouled by Overton. Just the kind of start Pat Kennedy needed.
They come out of the gates here to start this second half. See, they didn't get enough scoring opportunities because they were turning it over or shooting too many perimeter shots, so they weren't able to make their pressure defense a factor. They need to score in order to allow their defense to get set and apply some pressure and see if Doug Overton, in fact, can handle full-court man-to-man pressure, although it looks like they're going to back off and pick him up at three-quarters court right now.
Mays, back for the first time in 3.5 weeks, has 11 points, and it's 50-36. First couple of minutes of every half, so important, and a three-point play to start the Seminoles drive in the second half. Bob Johnson inserted into the starting lineup for half number 2, the only change in the lineup. Lionel Simmons hasn't changed. A three-pointer for Lionel.
Well, Coach Kennedy in the shoot-around talked about Lionel Simmons really excelling going to the basket. You can't take away everything from an offensive player. If there's one thing you're going to give him, it's probably the perimeter shot.
Dawson inside the paint. They'll need more of that in the second half.
He really wasn't a factor in that first half. Rarely got the ball inside. I can only remember him scoring 2 points in the first half from the field.
Yeah, he has 9 in the game. Most of those coming from the line in the first half. Nice reverse by Simmons. And Hunter pulls it down. Florida State trying to find the groove here in half number 2. McCloud, great look to Dawson, and he's fouled. Jack Hurd will pick it up. Coming up next on ESPN tonight as our triple hitter of college basketball continues, the Wolfpack of North Carolina State, Jim Valvano, perhaps seeing life in a different manner now with news that Peter Golenbach's book won't be coming out, at least from Simon & Schuster. Will be taking on Duke at Cameron Indoor Stadium. 9 p.m. Eastern Time, that game immediately following ours. And Pat Kennedy, one-time assistant to Valvano, and Thomas gets the hoop and the foul from Levers.
Well, just a nice strong shot again in the paint area. That's where Florida State has to do it, and I'm sure that's what Pat Kennedy talked about. Here he is in the man's territory on the block, Irving Thomas.
Right where Clark used to be at home and happy with Eldon Miller at Ohio State.
No question about that, Mr. Brando.
No fadeaway Jays.
Take it to the cup.
That's right. No fadeaways for Special K. 53-41. The Noles to within a dozen. And a foul against McCloud. Oh, they called a charge against Johnson. And Speedy is beside himself.
And well, he should be. I don't know how you whistle an offensive foul on that unless Bobby Johnson hooked with the left hand.
Remember this, though, and I'm sure Pat Kennedy did a lot of lobbying going to the dressing room, talking with the officials. It seemed that every close call went against him in the first half.
Well, that usually has a way of evening itself out. But again, I think Florida State wasn't aggressive enough in going inside. Here we get it. There it is.
Oh, nice
good call. From our angle, I thought that was the only way they could have whistled that. We didn't see it initially, but that left arm certainly hooked. Good call by the officials.
David White is loose, finds Thomas, who makes the adjustment in midair using the glass. McCloud is injured and on the sidelines right now for Florida State. And we've got a timeout called by Speedy. It's 53-43. LaSalle by 10.
Contest at 7 o'clock. Penn takes on Columbia. Saturday evening, a doubleheader.
It will be interesting to see if George McCloud returns. Take a look at this. This was the foul earlier, Bob Johnson hooking McCloud. Now watch the knees connect there. And we could speculate, and we will hear, that perhaps that's where he was injured. And they've been checking him on the sidelines, but he looks to be in good enough shape to return a bit later. Maybe he bruised it a bit here.
Here we get a look at it again. We barely can see it, but it looks like he does take a little limp hop immediately after that contact, but right now he's at the scorer's table. So whatever it was, obviously not too serious, as he's going to get back into the ball game. Maybe.
What is serious is they're down 10 with 18 plus to play, and he has 11 points. They'll need a lot more from him.
No question about it. Nice little run here to start the half, and they've done it in just a minute and 48 seconds. Clear the side for Lionel.
Simmons inside the paint. Nice little inbound special to the special guy.
No question about it. You like to get a guy like him in one-on-one isolation situations as much as possible.
A rejection by Lionel against Tony Dawson. Dawson follows. Oh, Thomas with such a slam.
Take that, Explorers. That was an awesome rebound dunk by Thomas. He went to the bench at that timeout with a bunch of intensity and enthusiasm.
And a foul against David White. Sophomore from Boca Ciega in the St. Petersburg area. Take a look at this.
Look at this one, folks. Up over 2 Explorers with the left hand. And he had something to say. Maybe he didn't. His actions said it all.
Yeah, gave him a nice look, though, didn't it?
That's highlight film material there, Brando.
Now remember this, Simmons was in the air as well. He was not stationary there as he went over, and Lionel was jumping as well.
Makes that even more impressive. Those are some impressive numbers right there.
He is as good as we were told.
No question about it. As good as advertised.
56 to 45. Simmons now with 24.
Little half-court trap here. Well, they're falling back into the 2-3 now.
Cloud for 3. Bangs it home, and it's an 8-point deficit now the Seminoles face.
Boy, he really shoots it easily from deep, Tim. He's got great range and great strength with his shot from deep.
Greg Conlon has re-entered, and he finds Hurd. And the loose ball controlled by Theron Mays. Nice look, and it's Tony Dawson knocking it home. Tony Dawson's numbers are up to 11 now, and you had mentioned earlier they weren't getting enough from him.
They really weren't. They hadn't really looked to him. Now they're going to look to Lionel Simmons at the other end.
Mays got a hand in there, got caught. David White picks up the foul prior to the reach-in by Theron Mays.
Here we look at Theron Mays just scrambling, out-quicking Overton to the ball. Now he pushes it up, realizes that Dawson is right there for the nice lead back for the easy basket. Plays like that in the first half were in favor of the Explorers. They were able to get the long rebounds, always came up with the loose balls. So far in this first half, it's kind of turned around a little bit.
Mays makes this team a much quicker club. I think there's a bit of a misconception that Florida State is quick off their feet, and the University of New Orleans, I think, there's testimony that they perhaps aren't as quick as some people believe. A team, Tim Floyd's team, 6'5", that's the tallest player they have, and Pat Kennedy mentioned it. We did not match up well against that quicker, smaller group.
Well, when the team goes from the norm, New Orleans, a small, quick team, they give a lot of people problems because you don't see that so often. I mean, you don't see teams made up with that type of personnel.
Don't schedule a game at the Lakefront Arena in February. Not if you're ranked. Remember that, folks. More zone now from LaSalle.
1-2-2. Now they drop into a 2-3. Great look.
Oh, to Mays. What a perfect dish.
He really can see the floor, Tim. I don't know if he's a point guard at the next level. He's probably more suited to being a 2 guard, but he's got great passing skills, and he's not afraid to give it up.
Simmons counters for the Explorers. You get the feeling we may have a wire game yet.
It very well could be. The Seminoles have made a run to get back into it, but they haven't quite bursted the bubble yet.
Dawson. And it's cleared by Conlon. Piercing the double team, and a foul on White, and Kennedy can't believe it. what Kennedy wanted from his defense at today's shoot-around. He talked about it.
Excellent double team. Boy, it certainly looks like Conlon. Here we get a look at the 1-2-2, and watch McCloud with that great size, 6'6", able to see over it. He's going to find Theron Mays right now, right there. Great look.
Technical foul on Kennedy. And it stems from that no-call charge turn block.
Well said, Brando, because I really think that could have gone and should have gone the other way.
Now we'll put the left-hander, Conlon, at the line. Pat earned that one. He has been giving a lot of lip. Early on in this game, he felt some of the marginal calls went against him, and we've proven via the replay that he has been within his rights from time to time.
Certainly has been. That's usually the case in any hard-fought game, though. There's going to be some.
Here it is again.
There's a bump there. Actually, he got two bumps in there. Knocked both McCloud and White down, and the foul was called on White, and Pat Kenny, in arguing that, picked up the tee.
Simmons may have had a hand check that time called against Florida State, either Mays or McCloud. It goes against George McCloud. From the floor, Florida State 38% up to 80% in the second half. LaSalle, an even 50 throughout. Solid and consistent. Overton picked up the pivot foot and turned it over to Florida State. You understand, though, why Kennedy picked up that foul. He preached to his team. That's what he wanted defensively. They do what the coach asked, and yet the call went against him. He's trying to inspire his troops.
No question about it. They need inspiration. Came out early in this half and kind of got back into it. Now it's back to double digits.
Cloud stripped by Hurd to Overton. Kennedy with one hand over the other. That's not for the tee, that's for a timeout. Speedy Morris's club up by a dozen again. He's a big point, George McCloud, but he has to protect the ball, right, Clark?
He really does. This has happened to him a couple of times. There you see Hurd just get a hand on it. McCloud kind of loosey-goosey with it in front of his body. And the end result, turnover Florida State, 2 points for the Explorers.
George McCloud with a pair of turnovers tonight. He reminds me of a player that's now in the NBA. He didn't play the point, but they experimented with him at LSU. John Williams, now playing, of course, for the Bullets, as McCloud knocks it home for three, 64-55.
I'll tell you what, John Williams is one of my most favorite players in the NBA because he's so versatile and he's so young. I think he's a star waiting to happen.
A reach in and a turnover. Theron May started it, and he'll finish. Oh, that arm extension. What a wingspan he has.
Quick hands, too, that time. He just got it. Really, Florida State wants to double team Lionel Simmons anytime he puts it on the floor, and that time Theron Mays got there in perfect position, able to get the steal and basket.
Hurd. Second three-pointer for Jack Hurd. He has 6. Sophomore from Philadelphia.
Boy, the Explorers continue to answer every challenge by the Seminoles. They've had it down to as few as 8. And every time the Explorers have been able to come up with the hoop and get it back to double digits.
I want to check that, Clark. Jack is just a freshman. Hurd watches as Aubrey Boyd finds the seam and gets his 5th point. 67-59, LaSalle by 8. Nice turnaround by Lionel Simmons. Boy, is there anything he doesn't have in his repertoire?
There really is, and I tell you what, this guy is a player, period. I don't care what conference he plays in, this guy is a player.
McCloud, too strong and too deep. Out of bounds. Florida State will hang on.
Here we look at Simmons down on the low box. Irvin Thomas lets him catch it. No dribble, just a quick pivot to the baseline, turn around Jay. A good offensive player gets it that close, and when you have as much stuff in your game as Simmons has, it's 2 points most of the time.
Simmons clears it for LaSalle. Just over 13 minutes to play in the game. And Lionel is loose. Aaron shot that time way off the mark. And they're 1st and 10 again in the Big 5, not the Big 10. Inside the paint area. Now who has it, fellas? Jump ball, tie, and the arrow going to LaSalle. It took a while to separate the fray there.
I tell you what, Irvin Thomas will go down on the floor for the basketball. You like to see that in any player, but especially a guy as big as he is. He gets down there and scraps for it. Playing with a lot of intensity here in the second half, too.
Florida State launching many more shots and their shooting percentage up in so doing. Not as many turnovers. That's been the key. And there's Milko again. Good move by Lieberst. Welcome to double digits, Milko. He has 11. 71-59. Dawson. Nice dish that time by Boyd piercing through.
It's going to have to happen for Florida State at the defensive end, Tim. They're going to have to shut down LaSalle.
Overton for 3. 13 for Doug Overton. He could shoot the ball a great deal more. That's not his role on this team, but he has an outstanding shot.
He's really been under control. He's only taken maybe 1 or 2 bad shots tonight.
Irving Thomas. It's a charge. And Lieberst was there to get it. That's the 3rd foul on Irving Thomas. 74-61, just over 12 minutes to play. Tim Brando along with Clark Kellogg. We're happy you joined us at the Palestra in Philadelphia. The 12th-ranked Seminoles of Florida State reeling from 3 straight losses. A buzzer-beater loss at against Louisville at home, and then a loss to Memphis State. Both games seen earlier here on ESPN. LaSalle looking for respect by beating a nationally ranked team and solidifying, perhaps in their mind, an at-large berth in the NCAA.
This kind of win would go a long way in doing that.
Dawson clears it. Mays. Cleared by Aubrey Boyd. Well, the defensive pressure is there. There's the pinch again, the trap. McCloud to Mays. That's what Pat Kennedy wants.
McCloud really does an excellent job of finding people when they're open and ready to score if they make a good, clean catch and have their feet under them. That time Mays did.
Theron Mays has 18 now. Conlon kept alive again, but cleared by McCloud. It's a 4-on-2 breakaway. Boyd lost it on the inline.
Well, really not a good decision that time by McCloud. tried to make what was really a tough pass, and they had a 3-on-2 situation, and you want to convert all of those, Tim.
Conlon coming out of the game now for LaSalle. Gets a nice ovation from the crowd as Bobby Johnson re-enters for Speedy Morris's club. There's Johnson. Instant offense. Simmons keeping it alive. Consistent offense.
He's some kind of player. Just really has a nose for the basketball on the offensive glass, and when he gets it inside, has the patience and presence of mind to use the ball fake.
McCloud. Tony Dawson follows. And you can count the hoop and the foul. Oh, they're waving it off. Simmons perhaps picking it up. Push. No shot. They're calling the foul prior to the shot.
Here we get to look at Simmons working the offensive glass. I love these offensive rebounders, Tim. Those that have the knack and the desire to keep it alive when the shot is missed and then convert. Those really demoralize the opposition.
Simmons picked up the foul. And now the inbounds is stolen by Lionel. And Mays takes it away for Florida State. You just have a feeling that Florida State has too many athletes not to stay in it. But the big plays keep coming from LaSalle.
Great point, Tim. Florida State has made a little bit of a run, but they just can't quite get over the hump and dent that armor completely. LaSalle has answered, and they've got more weapons than just Lionel Simmons.
A lot of weapons in the ACC, not including the Cameron Crazies, and that's where we'll go immediately following this game for Duke and North Carolina State. Pivotal game in the ACC as both of those teams head towards the ACC tournament in March. McCloud, too strong. There he is, passing inside to Dawson. Oh, he missed the chippy. And there's George again. Take it, George. He finally takes it himself.
Well, a little of their own medicine is that time the Seminoles able to keep it alive on the glass and finally come up with the deuce. Aubrey Boyd.
Yeah, he's limping. Yeah, we'll get an official's timeout as well. They have a Charlie horse. I think that may be what he has. Watch this, though.
Here's one of those great jump passes by McCloud. Dawson just a little out of control inside, but it's tapped around, and McCloud, look at him try to draw the foul here. Watch him lean in, trying to draw that foul. Didn't get it, but still kissed the window gently for the deuce.
And there's Boyd, the sophomore from Macon, Georgia, on the sidelines being worked on. Well, what a school, Southwest Macon. Just a few players have gone to that high school in Georgia. Jeff Malone, Terry Fair, the list goes on and on.
Not too bad, those guys can play.
McCloud for three.
That's a three-point basket by Florida State's number
Look out.
21, George McCloud.
George is back where he'd like to be offensively. He's found the stroke. They're down 7 are the Seminoles. Hurd.
Yeah, it hurts, Tim. It really hurts. You get a chance, you cut it to 7, and then the Explorers come right back down with the 3 of their own.
He has 9, and they keep answering this LaSalle team. The bounce pass didn't work. The steal, and Johnson's free. 81-69, the Explorers with under 9 minutes to play.
Time slowly becoming a factor now, Tim.
McCloud, good pass to Dawson again.
I tell you what's so great about the jump pass. His teammates are always ready, but the defense never really can adjust to a guy who passes in the air like that because they almost think he's going to shoot it every time, and it's really a great way to catch the defense off guard as long as your teammates are ready.
Particularly with a team like LaSalle that must be fundamentally sound and block out. Johnson, Tad Hunter collects it for Florida State. Again, a numbers game. That time, McCloud forced it, but it will be controlled to Florida State. I think many times McCloud is in a position where it looks like he's making a bad decision, but he's lost confidence because he's had so many great passes that they've been unable to convert.
Exactly right.
And listen to the crowd respond to Milko Levers. Speedy Morris will talk to his big center. He has to be happy with his play tonight. Crowd of just under 10,000. And they have been making some noise here for their homestanding Explorers. Theron Mays feeds Dawson baseline.
Look at him work inside. Excellent work that time by Tony Dawson.
And the foul against Jack Hurd.
Salle fouls on number 25, Jack Hurd. That's his third personal.
Here we go. Nice pass by Theron Mays. Now watch him go. Quick move to the baseline to beat Simmons. Missed the initial thrust. I tell you what, in the paint, Jim, the guy who shoots the shot has the best chance at getting the miss. I really firmly believe that because he knows if it's going to drop or not, and he can maybe he can have that quick reaction to the missed shot.
And Tony Dawson has rebounded from a number of problems throughout his career. A couple of freak auto accidents when he was just a youngster, left his leg broken 2 consecutive times. He has fought through a great deal. He's quite a human interest story.
Talked to him before the game, and he's really not been bothered by that leg problem at all. Really has been an advantage for him in a sense because he can jump equally effectively off his right leg as he can off his left.
Mays. Derek Mitchell keeps it alive. And there's McCloud. That's his spot. Just a bit shallow that time. And here comes LaSalle. Hurd.
Oh, that's a great look by Conlon.
83-72, 7:19 and counting. Well, the game found its rhythm, and it's gotten exciting, hasn't it?
Up and down now. Both teams trying to push it up quickly.
Mitchell, good pass to Hunter.
Better catch by Tat Hunter as he was blocked out by 2 defenders. Still able to catch it right when it got in front of his face.
That's 4 for Hunter. Senior. Third cousin of Tom Hammonds, the post-up player for Georgia Tech and Bobby Crimmins. And there again is Overton. Well, he makes the most of his opportunities from outside. He has 15 points.
I tell you what, the Explorers look like a team that will not be denied, Tim. They just keep answering every challenge. And with that, you gain more confidence.
They're on Mays. Right back for Florida State.
Tell you what, this Explorer ball club, I like what I see here, Tim. They've got enough weapons to keep the defense honest, and I don't know if anybody can handle Mr. Simmons by themselves.
Well, this is the kind of team that when they make a run at the NCAA tournament, everyone says, who, LaSalle? But the only reason they say who is because not everyone's had an opportunity to see them. All the teams that have played them in the regular year would know why. And there's McCloud for 3.
That's a 3-point basket by Florida State's number 21.
Rhode Island was that team a year ago.
Exactly right. They were able to make it to the Sweet 16. Timeout now.
87-79. The Explorers by 8. Playing well for Speedy Morris, but the Seminoles are hungry. LaSalle leading Florida State 87-79 in a very special building, the Palestra in Philadelphia. Very special to the head coach at Florida State, Pat Kennedy. He'll tell you why.
It was right here, Section 105, 23 years ago, when I saw my first big-time college basketball tripleheader. The Palestra in Philadelphia, it always gives me the chills. We're looking forward to a great game, and we're looking forward to that excitement. I had a chance to play here one time, my junior year in college, but instead of playing, my college coach asked me to coach. I gave away the opportunity to play, but I got the opportunity to coach, and tonight, another dream becomes a reality.
And that was at King's College, where he recruited some of Speedy Morris's players while he was the head coach at Roman Catholic High School, where he had a number of great teams. He would later coach the women's team, get them to the NCAAs, and then get the job with the men's club, where he has been equally successful. Two guys that know a great deal about one another, Kennedy and Speedy Morris. And a foul. Tony Dawson picking it up outside against Craig Conlon.
Well, as we wind down here, Tim, to the last portion of this game, you would almost think Florida State would like to be in a position where their pressure defense maybe would have worn down the opposition by now, but because the Explorers have been so effective offensively and defensively, the pressure hasn't come into play, and fatigue probably not as much a factor as it would be if Florida State was able to execute their game plan better.
And depth really hasn't been a problem or a factor in this game, as we see a turnover in Speedy. Well, he's friends with Roley, and he's been as animated as Roley could ever be tonight.
The turnovers really get to him. They do an excellent job of handling the ball, coming in here only averaging 12 a game, so it's critical now. You don't want to turn it over without a shot.
Crowd recognizing this is a big sequence. Mitchell is stopped out of bounds to Florida State.
Here's Mitchell. This is a nice move along the baseline, but Mr. Simmons, no, Derek, not inside.
And Simmons adding to his rejection total. Second in assists is this ball player, and second in steals. And you see three-point range. Florida State, a perimeter team tonight. And there's a push by Dawson, and he got caught.
You know, sometimes a player on the outside can come up with an over-the-back rebound, but more times than not, whether you foul or whether you don't, it's going to be whistled.
Got to look at Kennedy there down on it. And as you look at Speedy Morris, Pat Kennedy in that crouch position looks so very similar to a coach that he's patterned his career after, Jim Valvano. He was an assistant to him. How many times have you seen Jimmy in that posture talking with assistants? Richie Petruccioni is in the same position Tommy Abatamarco at one time was, now the head coach at Drake. Tom Carlson there along with him. But Kennedy says that Roley Massimino, who's in this area, and of course he was raised in New Jersey just a few miles away, he and Massimino and Valvano had a great deal to his coaching career.
Well, naturally you would pick up some of their traits and characteristics, some of their philosophies, and certainly not two bad guys to learn from.
That's right. 89-79 LaSalle. Dawson, big time move there.
Great move, put it on the floor. And he's just consistent. Got off to the slow start tonight, but he's still got about 17, 18 points.
Quiet 18.
Really, he's consistent though. He does it all the time, and he does most of his work inside.
Milko Levers back in the game now. Original starting five, with the exception of Bob Johnson, the perimeter shooter, and there's Tad Hunter with a hand on that one against Simmons. Hurd gets past McCloud. Speedy Morris did not like that possession. Mays could cut it to 6, and he finds McCloud, who cuts it to 5. 89-84, 4 minutes plus. This is where LaSalle has usually answered the Florida State run.
The Seminoles a little deeper into that run right now.
Oh, two-hand shot.
Hey, when you're that kind of player, you just want the ball and want to get some type of shot off.
Did you see the way
What's the prettiest shot?
Oh.
But they don't say how, they just say count it if it goes in.
It's like a set shot that turned into a jump shot. Dawson keeps it alive. Jump ball with the arrow pointing to Florida State. You see the arrow there. Look at this, though. Watch the shot, the way he launches it, Clark.
Little unorthodox, but the result is just what you want, Tim.
Lionel, you are special. Clark, I have to tell you, you don't have to be a Phi Beta Kappa to realize that both stars have to play well for these teams to win games. But when you look at Lionel Simmons, his numbers truly spectacular in this game for Speedy Morris's club. 91-84 our score, and Lionel 36 points, 10 boards, 4 blocks, 4 assists. You don't get much better. And George McCloud, destined to be the first guard taken in the NBA draft, 8 out of 13 from three-point range. 28 points, 6 assists. He could have a dozen or more if his team had been converting.
He really could.
They're on Mays. Once again, a tie ball. The arrow this time will go to LaSalle, so they'll hold on.
I don't know. I think they've got a discrepancy here at the scorers table. The last arrow possession I remember went to LaSalle.
Yeah.
Now, my memory isn't exactly the best, but it looks like it's LaSalle's ball.
Now, I recall Florida State getting the arrow on that tie ball underneath down on the inline.
Right you are, Tim. I stand corrected there.
Well, Pat, I think, was reminded of that a moment ago, and he gave up the bark shortly thereafter. Nice finger roll, but too strong for Overton. That's one of his rare misfires tonight. Dawson with a 360 spin move. Pat Hunter. Oh, not unlike his tap in to send the Louisville game into overtime.
Well, just got a fingertip on it, but that was enough. The Seminoles now going to apply some half-court trap pressure and come up with the steal.
This could be as close as they've been in a long while. They're down by a deuce with 2:50 to play.
George McCloud has found his stroke.
30 points for Big George and a timeout by Speedy Morris. Look out, the Seminoles are on a warpath and Morris knows it. 91-89, LaSalle. Tad Hunter led the Metro Conference in rebounding, and it certainly come through here in the late going. Florida State with 2 timeouts left, LaSalle with 1. Tad Hunter, take a look at this tip in.
Tough shot here by Dawson, but Tad Hunter reaches way back and gets 3 fingers on it, and then gets the favorable roll for the deuce, and then right after that, they were able to pressure, come up with the steal on the big 3 by McCloud.
And the Seminoles have outscored LaSalle by 8 in the last 2, 26. Tad Hunter had that tip in, and you remember that 5 points scored in the last 11 seconds against Louisville. Florida State had admittedly played a poor game, perhaps didn't deserve to win, but earned the win in their minds with a 2-point lead at the line. They missed the free throw, and then Louisville buried one at the buzzer, and Pat Kennedy knows that loss took the starch out of his team and may be responsible for this 3-game skid. Bob Johnson for 3.
That's a huge shot because everybody in the gym, in the building, feels like Lionel Simmons is the guy that's going to take that shot. But they've got other weapons. Overton and Johnson have been outstanding tonight, as has Lever.
Dawson inside the paint, drops it through.
Nothing like having a guy in the post area that you can go to in this type of game. At this stage in the game, he can either score or possibly draw a foul.
Florida State has so many weapons, and there's another one. Mitchell to Mays. And now it's 94-93 with 1:50 to play.
Well, the Seminoles really have been able to turn it up defensively. They've gotten a lot of steals out of their half-court pressure.
Johnson finds Hurd. He's caught in midair, double dribble. He was in no man's land, and Speedy, frustration beginning to show. Levers goes in, and the hair goes the other way for Coach Morris.
Here we're going to take a look at. There was a nice curve ball by Speedy. I think it was the program or a cut, and the assistant ducking for cover.
Now he says, composure, guys. Keep thinking. 1.5 to play.
They're looking to post up McCloud.
They did, and he lost it.
Oh, a lot of contact in there that time. Somebody came over from the weak side, gave McCloud a little bump. Well, I really think Dawson is the guy you maybe isolate inside. He's got a knack for getting shots off in the paint, and he's done a great job here in the second half doing just that.
Hurd, that's his spot. A 4-point lead for the Explorers. Mitchell is pinched, and there's Dawson down low. Mitchell kept alive, loose to Bobby Johnson. And a foul against Tad Hunter. We've talked a lot about Lionel Simmons, but there's more in the arsenal than anyone ever expected, and Hurd has been heard from outside.
Just pulls up with the bomb, and this guy's only a freshman. Look at the bench. Look at the bench.
Now this is, as we mentioned at the top of the show, an Aretha Franklin game. It's respect yourself for LaSalle. They haven't beaten a team that's been nationally ranked, and granted Florida State's been on the skids, a 3-game slide, but still this is a team with the kind of athletes you have to beat to advance in the NCAAs. You see the timeouts remaining, 1 for each club. This will make believers out of a lot of people, including the NCAA Tournament Committee.
Yeah, this is one of those wins, if in fact the Explorers can hold on and get it, that people stand up and notice. They look at a team like Florida State, who's been a top 20 team all year long.
Pat Kennedy will remember his scheduling in February when he's putting his schedule together in the fall of next year. Away games at University of New Orleans, and then an intersectional game here. Granted, it helps you prepare for the NCAAs, but it's tough to get a win no matter how good you are when you come into this building against that man's club.
No question about that. But I really like to see teams play these types of games at this time in the season.
99-93. 2 possessions with the three-point shot for Florida State, and McCloud can bury them. Oh, the iron unkind, ripped down by Levers, and a foul against Dawson.
Well, I think they got it in the hands of the man they wanted, Tim. He elected to go to the window from long range, and I don't think he's tried to bank one from behind the arc all night long.
4th foul against Dawson. 33 seconds remaining now. And Levers at the line, just 48%. And coming up next, North Carolina State against Duke. So that's a break. They got the right man on the line, as you mentioned, and Florida State will have their chance with no time sufficiently ticking off the clock.
Not a very smart play that time by Levers. You don't want to foul. You don't want to do anything to stop that clock from ticking.
Divine guidance he's searching for.
He doesn't like it. We've seen him react this way a few times. He doesn't lack for animation or energy, does he? Well, I tell you what, his ball club has played an outstanding game tonight. He just doesn't like to see anything that could give the opposition a chance to sneak this one out.
McCloud deadly from the charity stripe, and you see Levers coming out of the game in favor of Conlon, a much better free throw shooter, and of course an offensive factor. So the offensive-defensive substitution being made now by Speedy Mars.
I guarantee you, Levers got an earful from Coach Mars.
Down to 4. A timeout remaining for both teams. Conlon hasn't been in a while. He may be the one to foul. Dawson fouls Hurd. And that will put Jack Hurd at the line, just over the 70% clip, and that's the 5th foul against Tony Dawson. He'll exit.
That's his 5th personal foul. That's the limit. The personal foul for Florida State's number 24, Tony Dawson.
Jack Hurd, really a highly recruited player out of high school. He was the 2nd best player in the state of Pennsylvania behind Billy Owens. had a few games against Billy. Scored 26 against Carlisle in a game that everyone in Pennsylvania remembers. He was playing at Warwick High School, and he'll shoot some big ones now.
Well, he's hit a couple of big baskets here tonight.
The scoreboard had the wrong timeouts remaining, we're told. That's why we had the stoppage of play. 1-1 now for Hurd. One apiece, as we mentioned. I think the scoreboard clock showed no timeouts remaining for Florida State, and they corrected that. Still a 6-point game, 2 possessions with the threes, and McCloud has it. Timeout. Kennedy wants it, and he gets it. 17 seconds left. 101-98, and it's not over yet, Speedy Mars.
Does he have range or what? Pulled up with somebody right in his face and shot that ball so easily. He's a 2-guard at the next level. He's a 2-guard, Tim.
35 points for him. Remember this, though. He'll have an opportunity when he does get in the NBA to show his passing skills, and he's shown us tonight.
He really has. He handles the ball well, and he has that size where he's able to see over people, and he's not selfish. He likes to give it up and get easier shots for his teammates.
At the free throw line, watch the animation. Oh, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. It is a Catholic school. And then on the other end, George McCloud.
Two defenders.
Pat loved it as well and said, hurry up, fellas. Let's get the timeout. This is no rectory. This has been no CYO affair. These two clubs are headed to the NCAAs, and this has been a great offering of things to come in March.
Well, pressure here. Maybe give yourself a second or two for the steal, if not foul immediately.
There's the pressure and the turnover to Florida State. Mays with the pressure against Overton, and we talked about him handling the pressure. He has for 39 minutes and 45 seconds.
Here we get a look at it. Hands in there by Mays. He's showing us quick hands. Now you don't need a bad three-pointer. You need to get a good three-point shot.
No timeouts remaining now. The last one used by Florida State after the three-pointer, so they have 11 seconds to run a three-point special off the inbounds pass.
Well, you don't have to be an engineer or a surgeon to figure out who's finally going to jack this three-pointer up.
It's McCloud. From deep. There's the follow, but no time remaining. It only counts two, and LaSalle wins it. A special moment at a building that's had many special games. George McCloud spending some time talking with Lionel Simmons, two all-star performances by some fantastic players, and the Seminoles, down all game long, showed what they were worth to the NCAA tournament by virtue of coming back.
There's McCloud with the three-pointer. Doesn't get it. Mays with the board, but two does no good in this situation.
And Speedy finally gets the W that meant respect and perhaps a crack at the top 20. And it's been a long, weary road trip. Passing comments for the striped shirts and then congratulatory remarks for his colleague. 101-100.